Hey, the chair calls to order the August 26th meeting of the Kansas Governmental Ethics Commission. Welcome back, everybody. It's nice to see your faces again. Looking to today's agenda and minutes, everybody's had an opportunity to review the July 22nd meeting's minutes and today's agenda. Are there any corrections that need to be made that anybody can identify? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve the minutes and agenda as written?
I would move to approve. This is Jane.
Thank you, Jane. Is there a second?
I would second.
Thank you, Kyle. All in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
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 All opposed, say nay.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion passes. The first item on today's agenda will begin with the Executive Director's report.
In the interest of streamlining the last few meetings, we've had, I've limited the executive director's report, but at some point things come to a head and I have to actually start telling you things. So I've got 3 items on the director's report today. The first is budget discussion, which you don't have any materials for, and then a campaign finance update and an SSI update. So issues. But first, for the budget discussion, our budget is going to be submitted in the next month, and so I'm trying to go over an overview here. First, I'm just going to go over a little bit about our budget, and then at the end, we'll talk about possibly appointing a subcommittee to approve the budget in the early half of September. But as a reminder, our agency is funded from 2 sources: the state general fund, so taxpayer dollars, and fee funds. The fee fund receives revenue from lobbyist, candidate, and PAC registrations.
Mark, you're kind of fading in and out volume wise.
Yeah, I'm getting that too.
That's unfortunate.
You could just get
better
through to your microphone. Yeah.
Yep. All right. Let me know if that happens again. I'll try to make sure that I'm speaking up. If it happens again, I have a microphone. I have a headset I can use. That is.
Be like Amy. Yeah.
Yeah. It's. I mean, it looks a little silly, but it's pretty intense.
Looks like it.
It
works really well. So, but just let me know if that happens again. I'm happy to put it in. So our agency is funded from state general fund and fee funds. The fee fund receives revenue from lobbyist, candidate, and PAC registrations, as well as penalties and fees. 2 legislative sessions ago, the agency was principally concerned with a decade-long trend where the portion of the budget for the Ethics Commission that was funded by the state general fund had steadily reduced, requiring repeated agency cuts and increasing the pressure on the fee fund. In the 2019 session, the legislature concurred with that concern and provided an increased portion of our budget from the state general fund, intending this amount to continue past fiscal year 21. In the 2020 session, the legislature also approved moving our staff attorney, hi Brett, to a full-time position. Total agency budget for fiscal year 21 is $734,424, with of that, $470,000, so 64% approximately, comes from the state general fund. Of that agency budget, over 75% of that is salaries and wages for our employees. Our investigator is contracted, so his wage is under a different category, but suffice it to say that most of our budget is not discretionary. After the budget bill is signed, in situations where the state general fund balance would be problematic, the governor can issue what are called allotments, which are essentially agency budget cuts that happen after the budget process has concluded. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, Governor Kelly issued allotments to a number of state agencies, including us. 18 state agencies received an allotment to their normal budget, but because our agency budget is already minuscule compared to most state agencies, allotment was a very small percentage of the total allotment. In fact, our allotment was 0.006% of the total statewide allotment. However, our agency cut was $20,756, which is a substantial amount for our small agency to absorb. I have, however, built a plan that addresses this cut in fiscal year 21 without impacting salaries below their current point. This cut crosses 7 budget categories. The first is deferred salary increases of $5,346. Pursuant to the agency pay plan created and endorsed by this commission 3 years ago, there were salary increases that I have built into the budget. These salary increases were made possible by finding cuts elsewhere in the budget. However, we were required to defer these raises for fiscal year 21. It is still my intention to continue finding avenues to increase the compensation of the employees of this agency pursuant to the factors the commission has outlined. The second is deferred computer replacements. We're pushing all computer replacements off till next year. That's $2,635. Data entry temporary assistance, we eliminated electoral cycle, which is $3,000. Agency supplies and stationery are $1,000 a piece. Postage and printing typically are the two largest parts of our budget other than salaries and wages. Postage, I've reduced $4,275, which is a 16% reduction. Printing, I have reduced $3,500, which is a 39% reduction. I'm confident that the services that we are providing to this agency will not be otherwise reduced as a result of these cuts. However, we are doing what we can to operate within a very tough time in the state in terms of the budget picture. In terms of changes I'm considering for the 2021 session budget submission, I'm funding that $20,000 cut from the fee fund for fiscal year 21 and 22. And so that cut that we received from the state general fund portion of our budget, fund from the fee fund. On a short-term basis, I'm confident that the fee fund has the balance to sustain this, though in the long run, it's not something that I would ideally like to maintain. We would also want to change the fee fund to no limit. Right now, our fee fund is in the budget bill with a specific amount that we are allowed to utilize from it each year. However, we are an agency that does investigations, and investigations have very unpredictable costs associated with them. As a result, it's probably best for the fee fund to be tasked as a no-limit fund. Third, I plan to work on those previously approved salary increases. I will continue to find ways to build those into the budget. That is a priority for both me and for I know all of you as well, given the pay plan that you approved a few years ago. I'm asking that the commission consider the way this budget submission works. The budget submission, the initial submission is due on September 15th. Typically you don't want to make a lot of changes after that time. However, the budget system also only just opened up a couple weeks ago. This happens every once in a while, and I think is the best way to approach this is to simply appoint a subcommittee who wants to review and approve the budget. The initial submission would be on September 15th, and so we would be meeting with the subcommittee either on, ideally, Friday, September 11th, or Monday, September 14th. So I'm hoping that we may have a few volunteers who may be interested in serving on a subcommittee to meet at that particular time to approve the budget.
You are cutting out, Mark, a little bit.
Thanks for that update, Mark. We see with that, we also have an agenda item of primary election campaign finance update, or I guess, is there any other thing to report on the budget discussion, I guess, before we move on?
Or do you need volunteers, Mark? He's probably.
You're talking, we're not hearing you, Mark.
Did we lose Mark?
Hey, Mark, I see that you're muted.
Yep, I understand. Yep, unfortunately, this computer's internal microphone is having some issues. I was asking for a subcommittee to be appointed at this point, however.
How many people do you need?
3 would probably be ideal and would be sufficient, but if we have more, there's no reason why. If more people want to be looking at the budget, they certainly could.
I'll be glad to help with that, Mark.
Thanks, Jane. Do we have anybody else that wishes to volunteer for the subcommittee? You said those dates were September 11th or possibly September 14th.
Yes, those are just close to the submission deadline. We could always do a little earlier than that. That's fine too. We just can't do later than the 15th.
Okay.
I could volunteer.
Judge Helmer is trying to participate via the phone, and he's going to look at dates and to see if he may also be able to volunteer for the subcommittee.
Great. So Jane, Patty, and Judge.
We're going to chip in and get you a laptop, Jerry.
Well, I'm on a hard computer in the office. I just don't have broadband. And the ID number they gave me to call in on is not valid, so it won't let me in.
Thanks for your persistence. Well, it sounds like we have 3 potentially, Mark.
Yes, it sounds like we've got 3, and if one of them can't serve for some reason, we can always find someone who is willing to serve.
Sure. So the next item is primary election campaign finance update.
Yes, so the campaign finance update from the primary election, we have 1,541 candidates at the state and local level. Of those, 887 filed affidavits, indicating that they would not raise above a certain amount of money. We actually only had to send 22 failure to file notices across those 1,541 candidates, which is an improvement over a couple of cycles ago. And so I would view this as a positive development. We also had 192 party committees. We had 7 failure to file sent for those party committees, and 240 PACs, of which we only had to send 5 failure to files. All this is the compliance rate is very good this year, and I hope that trend continues into the general election as well.
Great to hear. Any more on that topic?
Not unless there are any questions, otherwise I can move on to the SSI update.
Sounds good.
Great. The statement of substantial interests update. There were 5,563 individuals who had to file a statement of substantial interest with the state. Of those, I know the document says that there were 81 not on file with the Secretary of State. This morning, we've actually reduced that number to 68. So there's only a few people outstanding, most of which are in state agencies who are working from home or otherwise impacted by the pandemic, that are working on obtaining that submission. So again, a pretty good return rate at this point, and we are still working with those individuals to obtain filing. We have had all of the elected officials who have now filed, which is always something that I know some people are typically looking for. And so now that we have 100% compliance. And that would be the end of my report today.
Thank you, Mark. Does anybody have any questions? Okay, on the agenda next, we have some civil penalties to report. We have 9 for candidates and treasurers, or I guess 3 for the first Arlen Briggs. Mark, do you want to speak to these?
Yes, so I'm just going to go down each of them very quickly. Arlen Briggs, for non-filing of a statement of substantial interest form, is the maximum $300 penalty. Arlen Briggs, for a late filing of an appointment of treasurer form, was 22 days late for $220. Oscar Arenia, for a late filing of the July report, for $400. Daniel Slick was past the maximum for $1,000. Arlen Briggs still has not filed the July report for $1,000. Christopher Boys, local candidate, was 3 days late for $200. Mike Rhodes, 4 days late for $250. Fritz Blasky Jr., 5 days late for $300. Richard Garza was 12 days late for $650. Randy Unruh was 12 days late for $650. And Susan Watt, who is a treasurer for one of those candidates, was 10 days late for $100. We also have one Packer party, and that's Marianne Ducharek, who was a treasurer for the Allen County Democratic Central Committee, who was 4 days late for $40.
Okay. Thank you, Mark. Does anybody have any questions about the civil penalties? Okay, moving on to the next item on the agenda, we have a civil penalty waiver request from Brian Bursch, lobbyist.
We only have one civil penalty waiver request today. This is an individual who is a lobbyist who he has not received a civil penalty in the past. He received a $550 penalty in June. This individual indicated in his request for waiver that he terminated halfway through March and thought that filing that report meant that they did not need to file a report for the first 15 days of March. And they also indicated that their office was shut down due to the pandemic. And they reported a zeros report. They did not have any expenditures over this particular time frame. I will note that I have some dispute with the claim that they thought filing the report meant they were fully in compliance. In February, there was a phone call between the lobbyist and Jessica White, our lobbyist coordinator. There was a mass email that she sent to anyone who was late on April 13th. There was a specific email that she sent to this individual on April 15th. There was a failure to file that was sent on April 14th. And the report was not actually submitted until April 27th. When they terminated, he was told that he needed to file the April report. So normally I would not recommend this waiver because we've had numerous communications with this individual attempting to make sure they are aware of this filing issue and make sure that they actually filed timely. However, I understand the commission needs to also be forgiving in the universe of the pandemic, where some offices were impacted differently due to COVID-19. So I would not normally recommend this waiver, but instead I'm going to just not have a recommendation on this request.
Well, thanks for that information, Mark. Does anybody wish to make a motion, or does anybody have any additional questions? Because we can just simply choose to move on. Is that right, Mark?
That is correct. Our options are to have a motion to waive all or part, or simply to move on to the next item, which is functionally a denial of the waiver, but without a decision by the commission.
And how
Okay.
much was the fine again, Mark?
$550.
Okay.
Okay. Moving on to the next item on the agenda, we have paid for attribution statement waiver requests from two individuals.
Yes, so these two individuals, neither of which are self-reported. Stacy Nielsen had a Facebook post on her first personal Facebook page, as well as a newspaper ad. You have a pretty extensive letter submitted by the candidate. Again, on first-time violations for paid for violations, we typically waive the first issue. This would be the first issue for both individuals. So that's Stacy Nielsen. And it would, again, this would be her first violation. The second is for Mike Brown, who's a candidate for Johnson County Commission. This one is a little funny just because this isn't a self-report. There is a social media networking site called Nextdoor that is based on your neighborhood, and he lives down the street from me, so I saw the GoFundMe on the Nextdoor social network. It lacked the paid for on it. I contacted the individual, and he immediately fixed the error, and this would be his first offense. So typically we would waive both of these items, both for Nielsen and for Mike Brown. And I'd ask the commission to do the same again.
Since it's the first instance for both of these folks, I think that a friendly, sternly worded letter in their 201 file would be appropriate.
And you're moving to waive the fines?
I am.
Thank you, Kyle.
I'll second the motion.
Thank you, John. Is there any additional discussion on the motion to waive the penalties as requested? Hearing none. All in favor of approving the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Jane. The motion passes. The next item on the agenda. Wait, excuse me, Mark, was that motion encompassing both waiver requests?
I believe so.
Okay, yes. I believe that was the way it was worded. The next item on the agenda is the executive session. I have 122 right now.
So we actually could move to the hearings. I have one person who is just joining the meeting now, who is one of the hearing respondents. The hearings are scheduled for 1:30. Executive session is going to be relatively lengthy. We could not probably get through much in this 8-minute time period.
Okay.
Which hearing are we holding first?
It appears that complaint 684, Mr. Ramirez, is present. We, assuming that he does not want to delay another 7 minutes, he certainly could. We could move forward with that one.
All right.
Go Go ahead, John.
Thank you. Uh, My name is John Solbach, and I've been appointed as the hearing officer in this matter. In the matter of complaint number 684, Mark Skoglund is the complainant and Christian Ramirez is the respondent. And I hereby call this meeting to order. This is a complaint, which means that if we should find it, valid, that our findings would automatically go on to a district attorney or attorney general. In a way, by way of summary of the procedure, Mr. Ramirez, are you here by yourself or with counsel?
I am here by myself.
Okay, and you wanted us to go ahead with the proceeding with just with you appearing pro se without counsel?
Yes.
Okay. It normally, Mark, do we have a consent decree in this case?
No, we do not. This
Mark?
is seek a consent decree in this item, I don't believe. Brett, is that correct?
No, we hadn't had a consent decree.
Okay.
But having said that, we do have a request for consideration from Mr. Ramirez, which was presented at the last commission meeting. So there is some input from the respondent.
Okay. Mr. Ramirez, do you want us to proceed with the hearing on this matter, and you can present your evidence or make your case to the commission?
Yes, please.
Okay. Normally, you would have the opportunity to open, or the complainant counsel would have the opportunity to open and to present evidence. You can make an opening statement after the complainant's attorney makes his opening statement, or you can wait until after he's completed his evidence. Then you may present your evidence, and of course, everything is subject to cross-examination by the other party. You can cross-examine the complainant, the complainant's counsel if you'd like, and the commissioners would also have the opportunity to ask questions. You need to keep in mind that this hearing is being recorded, so that you'll need to respond verbally. We can't, the recorder isn't going to record nods or nonverbal communication. This hearing is before the commission. The commission sits as the judge in this case. I'm the hearing officer, but I'm not the one who's going to make the decisions. It'll be the commission that makes the decisions. And then after the presentation of evidence and the hearing has been closed, the commission will deliberate and announce its decisions, including findings and conclusions. Brett, would you like to state the appearances, please?
May it please the hearing officer, Brett Berry, appearing on behalf of the commission director, Mark Skoglund, who also appears in person. And my understanding is the respondent also appears in person. And when I say in person, I'm referring to the fact that we are all remotely appearing through Zoom at this time.
Okay. And he's appearing pro se.
That's my understanding from what he has said to you today.
Yes.
And I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead with your evidence.
Okay. I was going to
Or
ask the
I'm
hearing.
sorry, your opening.
Okay. I was going to ask the hearing officer to inquire whether Mr. Ramirez disputes the fact that his report was not timely filed when due, which would have been February 2nd, 2020.
That would be a question from the hearing officer to you, Mr. Ramirez. Would you like to respond?
Yes, thank you very much. I do not dispute that at all. As I explained in the document that I had provided to you, there were extenuating circumstances that I should have, but I do not disagree with that at all.
Okay, are you referring to a letter that Mr. Berry has that he referred to earlier that we don't have access to?
I believe so. I had responded back to a letter that I had. I don't remember who I had given it to, but I have submitted it for the commission to review. It was last
Okay.
month, I believe.
All right. Would you like to make an opening statement, Mr. Berry?
Yes, I would submit that based upon the respondents not contesting the fact that the report was not filed as of the deadline, which was February 2nd, 2020, that there probably would not need to be a need for presentation of evidence, but there would be opportunity for the parties to comment on what they would like to see for a disposition. So I think we could proceed should the hearing officer find the statement of the respondent sufficient to disposition, having found him in violation as alleged in the complaint.
Okay, why don't you tell us your recommended disposition?
Okay. Well, at this time, I've had an opportunity to confer with Mark Skodlin, the executive director, and I don't know that we have a specific recommendation for the commission. This would be Mr. Ramirez's, I think, first failure to file, other than he was involved in another campaign previously. And I think there might have been an issue there that led the commission to not want to go ahead and dismiss this matter. So I think the commission wanted to inquire of him in regard to the failure to file based on that prior history. But unless Mr. Skodlin has a different position, I don't think we have a recommendation for dispositional purposes.
Mr. Skodlin, do you have a recommendation?
My recommendation is solely, again, to remind the commission that normally, once the report is filed, we typically would dismiss these violations because the report is filed. That's the goal. However, in this particular instance, there's an argument to be made that the individual may not be taking these deadlines very seriously, as they've received 3 previous civil penalties from while serving as treasurer of the Kansas Young Democrats, and received a number of attempts to contact them previously. And so I don't have a specific recommendation. I think that if the commission believes that a very small amount is sufficient to ensure that this individual will take these deadlines seriously in the future, that is all the recommendation that I think is necessary.
Okay.
I don't think that there needs to be a very high, an extremely high fine here.
Okay, Mr. Ramirez, would you like to address the commission?
Yes, please. For the prior to this being a candidate, I was the treasurer for the Kansas Young Democrats. I can explain with that what happened there. When I became treasurer 2 years ago, the first time I had served as treasurer, the president of the organization at the time had not surrendered or given me any access to our finances. I was not told that I was supposed to be filing any reports. Anytime I had received a letter, I had sent him a copy of it, and he said that it would be taken care of, that he would take care of it.
Okay.
And
Mr. Ramirez, I'm going to interrupt you here.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's nice background to have, but that's not the issue before us. The issue before us is your failure to file as a unified government commission candidate. And that's
Yes.
what we should be addressing here. And you've heard
Okay.
Mr. Barry, and if you'd like to, and you've heard Mr. Skoglund, he thinks that a small fine would be appropriate here. You might tell the commission what kind of a fine would be necessary to get the point across to you.
I am sorry, I thought we were referring back to prior, but to current was why I had missed. I'm going to be upfront, and I had a lot of, I was a first-time candidate coming in, first-time elected official. Right into the gates, I had a big issue to deal with, stormwater, that had been going on for years. I had to learn about something within a very small, short time span. And then not even a month later, a 100-year historical church burned down in my district. Dealing with the aftermath of that, and then also dealing with other issues throughout the community. And then, of course, then pandemic happened. And within that pandemic, crime exponentially rised in my district, shootings almost every night, vandalism, graffiti. And I by the end of March, I knew I had to file the report, but in my best judgment, the safety and prosperity of my district and my people were the priority at the moment. And so that is why I knew I had to, but I felt that I had to deal with this first before moving forward and trying to.
All right. Yeah, the law doesn't state that if you, well, the commission has broad discretion on whether or not and how much to fine you. And I guess the question to you is, what do you think the commission should do here? What would be sufficient to get the point across that this needs to be taken seriously? If you have a recommendation for yourself.
I don't know what the range of the fine.
The fines could be $5,000 for a first violation, $10,000 for a second, and $15,000 for a third.
Mr. Solbach, with all due respect, why are we asking the respondent this question?
Because he has the right to make a recommendation, just like the complainant has the right to make a recommendation.
Well, you've asked him twice and he can't come up with something.
Okay.
I'm not sure what my recommendation is. I know and understand that there is filing deadlines. Now I completely know what those are. I will take whatever recommendation that the commission gives me.
Okay. Are there questions from the commission? Jane?
That was pretty much my question.
Okay. Anybody else? All right. In that case, let's go on to deliberations. And we traditionally have done that in executive session, but we now do it in open session. Is there anyone who has a motion or would like to lead off the discussion?
I'm not persuaded that the simple filing of that information, which is no more complex than it really is, takes a second seat to all of the other distractions. He can't serve his district if he can't simply follow the rules. So that's just an observation that I'd allow the rest of the commission to consider a recommendation.
Okay. Any other thoughts? Does anyone wish to make a motion?
And we have no recommendation from the executive director or legal counsel.
The executive director recommends that the fine be small, under the circumstances here, but that there needs to be some small fine. Is that correct, Mark?
That would be accurate. Specifically with the goal to whatever is necessary to ensure that the individual understands and appreciates the deadlines going forward.
Okay.
So this is Amy. Then what I would offer up is coming today, seeing us, explaining what's happened, I think does also help make a point to Mr. Ramirez and his people that we do need to do this and everybody's held accountable. It is a tough time. I know the district that Mr. Ramirez serves does have a lot going on. So I would recommend a small fine as well. I will recommend a number, but have that open to discussion. If we decide on one, then I'll make a motion at that time. Is that all right?
Why don't you make your motion and we'll discuss the motion if there is a second.
Okay, I will make a motion. So 5,000 is the first offense, correct? That's the set.
That's the maximum.
Okay, so I'm going to recommend a motion for a fine of 750. And make sure that then that's paid within 60 days, and that we would move forward with that type of fine.
Okay, is there a second to the motion?
I'll second the motion.
Been moved and seconded. Is there discussion? Is there discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, nay. Motion appears to carry. Motion does carry. Is there any recommendation by the commission that the prosecuting authority that this is referred to take further action or take no further action?
My recommendation would be to take no further action, that the fine would be sufficient on its own.
Okay. Is there any objection to that?
No.
Okay. We have found that you are in violation, Mr. Ramirez, and there's been a fine imposed of $750 and needs to be paid within 60 days. This will be referred on to the Attorney General or to the District Attorney as it's appropriate, which we're required to do, and there will be included in that referral a recommendation that no criminal action be taken against you. Okay?
Okay, sounds great. Thank you very much.
All right. That concludes that's all that we have today in this hearing. And so the hearing in this matter is now closed. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
John.
Thank you.
John, I see that we have in the Zoom meeting, I believe Brandy Armstrong has joined us.
Okay.
Also Sarde Duthard. So I believe, Mark, correct me if I'm wrong, do we have 2 more hearings to conduct?
We do. So we have three more hearings. We at least have Armstrong and Douthert, and then we also have Troy Smith if he appears. We were not able to contact Troy Smith, so it's possible that he doesn't appear. If that's the case, I would actually recommend we continue the Troy Smith hearing to next month rather than hold an absentia. My recommendation at this time would be to move on to the Brandy Armstrong hearing, since she was the treasurer for Mr. Ramirez. And if permitted, I think that I can make things move a little quickly with an open, if I were permitted to make a quick statement before we actually start the hearing for Ms. Armstrong.
John, if you can proceed with the hearing on this matter.
All right. My name is John Solbach. I've been appointed as the hearing officer in the matter of the complaint against Brandy Armstrong, complaint number 685. Ms. Armstrong, are you present?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Were you present for the explanation I gave for our hearing procedures previously?
No, I came in at end of Mr. Ramirez's hearing.
Okay. I'll go over that in a minute, but our executive director said that he'd like to make a statement to move things forward. So we'll go to Mark and listen to that statement.
I'm a little jumping the gun here, but I think that it's worth noting that Brandy Armstrong is the treasurer for Mr. Ramirez. She has no priors. This isn't someone who has filed late reports previously. The report issue is on file. We could dispose with the hearing and dismiss now if that's what the commission ultimately would like to do.
Okay.
Then hold the hearing, but that's certainly up to.
Okay. Before we get further into the hearing, I'll ask, is there a motion to dismiss?
I would so move as counsel for the commission.
Okay. You would recommend the commission has to make the motion.
Oh,
Someone on the commission
certainly
has to make the motion.
Well, since you opened your mouth, why are you making that recommendation?
me?
I want to know why our council is making that recommendation.
My recommendation would be based upon what we do in similarly situated treasurers or candidates who have not had a prior. We normally find the complaint sufficient and dismiss it. I think the reason that we didn't take that action at the last commission meeting was because she was treasurer for Christian Ramirez, who had some prior history regarding another commission, campaign. And so the commission wanted to address that with Mr. Ramirez, and I think her case kind of tagged along. So since she doesn't have any prior failure to files, I think it would be appropriate to treat her consistently with other respondents.
Okay.
And that's why I made the motion.
But you
Well,
can't make the motion.
You recommend that we make the motion.
Understood.
I think as counsel for in the hearing, I could make the motion, but I certainly cannot make a motion for the commission. So I think there's two different issues. But my recommendation would be that someone on the commission make the motion and then consider it.
Is there a motion?
Based on the recommendations of the director and the counsel for the commission, I would move a find sufficiency to dismiss the petition.
Is there a second?
This is Patty. I'll second it.
Is there a discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, nay.
Nay.
Motion appears to carry. Motion does carry. That concludes this matter. And so the hearing in this matter is now closed. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And Ms. Armstrong, I just want to make sure, do you understand the outcome of this, or do you have any questions? John, I think she might have some.
Sorry, I don't mean to take up y'all's time. So when you say dismiss, is there anything else that I need to do for y'all, or?
Make sure you wear a mask where it's required.
Oh, yeah, of course. But yeah, I just want to make sure there's nothing else that you guys need from me.
I don't think so.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you for coming.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, John. And I do believe that we have another hearing on the schedule. Mark, I don't know if you want to speak to this prior to getting into it, but I see that it's another matter of the treasurer of Troy Smith. So is this being continued also?
No, I think that I don't see a reason to continue for the treasurer, for Ms. Douthert, and I apologize if I am mispronouncing your name. We can continue Mr. Smith's hearing and handle that next month, but I don't see a reason why we necessarily have to do the same for the treasurer unless the commission wants to just handle them simultaneously. My understanding is next month is a particularly bad time for Ms. Douthert to appear personally. So it would be best, I believe, based on that presentation, that it would be best to simply resolve it today.
Okay.
Is Mr. Douthert here?
Yes, sir. Can you all hear me?
Yes. Do you want me to go forward with the hearing, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, please do so, John.
Okay. My name is John Solbach. I've been appointed as the hearing officer in this matter. Mark Scogan versus Sardi Dothard, complaint number 683. This is a complaint. Were you here when we went through the hearing procedures in the first hearing, Ms. Douthard?
I believe I might have missed a little bit of
Okay.
but I heard the end of it. I'm not sure I got all the information, sir.
Are you here pro se by yourself, or you're here with counsel?
I am here by myself.
Okay. Normally, in a hearing before the commission, the complainant's attorney would make an opening statement and then proceed to present evidence. You would be entitled to make an opening statement after his opening statement, or you could wait until after he presented all of his evidence. You would have the opportunity to cross-examine any witnesses that he might call or raise questions about any evidence. The commission would also have the opportunity to ask questions during the hearing. This hearing is on the record, so it's important that you answer orally and verbally, so that we can't record gestures or a nodding of the head. We used to go into executive session, but now we will we'll deliberate and determine things in open session. This case is being heard before the commission. I'm the hearing officer, but I'm only the hearing officer. It's the commission that will make the decision in the case. Mr. Berry, would you state the appearances for the record?
Yes. Executive Director Mark Skoglund appears with counsel Brett Berry on behalf of the commission. And at this time, the respondent, Sardi Dothard, appears personally pro se. And when I say personally, I mean by Zoom teleconference.
Okay. And would you like to make an opening statement?
Essentially, I would waive opening statement. The only thing I would indicate to the commission is that as of last report, the report does not appear to have been filed in Leavenworth County as required.
Okay. Do you have evidence that you'd like to present?
Yes, I would.
Okay. Miss Dothard, would you like to make an opening statement now, or do you want to reserve it until after the evidence of the complainant?
I would like to reserve it until after the evidence.
Okay. Mr. Berry, please proceed.
At this time, I'd like to call Jennifer Snyder. I believe she is online with us.
Do we have the judge available?
Yes, he is here.
Would you place her under oath, Commissioner?
I will, if she identifies herself.
Yes.
Okay, ma'am, I know that we are on the record by Zoom. You cannot see me, but I'd ask that you apply to that. Raise your right hand, please. Have you done so?
Yes.
Do you solemnly swear the testimony you are about to give in the cause now in hearing be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, self you got?
I do.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Berry, please proceed.
Ms. Snyder, could you tell the commission where you're employed?
With the Governmental Ethics Commission.
Okay. And how long have you been employed with Governmental Ethics Commission?
Since December of 2010.
And what is your position with the commission?
I'm the local campaign finance supervisor.
As part of your responsibilities, do you oversee the filing of local campaign finance reports with the various governmental entities that are to receive them?
I do. First class city and county candidates.
And specifically with regard to the matter before the commission, are you familiar with the candidacy of Troy Smith and his treasurer, Sarde Duthard?
I am.
And how are you familiar with their particular campaign?
The reports all cross my desk. They're starting with the filing for the candidate and then carrying forward all the reports. So I send them reports when I'm lacking information. I do contact them. So just through the course of reviewing their file and the reports.
Okay. Well, I'd like to direct your attention specifically to the report that was due January 10th, 2020. Was that filed timely?
No, it's not been filed yet.
Okay. Have you, in your position with the commission, made efforts to see that that report is filed?
I have. I've sent reminder notices, failure to file. I have reached out to the treasurer, at least by email. I've tried many a times for the candidate. I can't seem to get a hold of them. I've tried phone numbers as well. Yeah.
Okay. And you indicated in your testimony you sent out a failure to file form. Is that correct?
I did.
And based upon that
January
form,
28th. But
okay.
candidate.
You were anticipating my next question. Based upon the sending of the failure to file, subsequent to that failure to file, when would the report have been due?
It was due January 10th. After the failure to file was sent out, it was due, well, February 13th is when the civil penalty started. So any time within that, before or after.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to clarify that civil penalties do not start or accrue until there's a response from the failure to file. Or I mean, until there's an opportunity for them to respond. Is that correct?
No, failure to file. Once we send that out, they have 15 days to file before civil penalty starts. It will build until it reaches $300 on the January report. That civil penalty builds whether they claim their mail or not.
Well, thank you for the clarification. And you testified that the report has not yet been filed. How do you know that?
I don't have it in my file, so it's not been sent to our office, and I've reached out to the Leavenworth County Clerk's office numerous times to make sure they do not have it either. Yesterday they responded, they still don't have it.
All right, I thank you. I have no further questions for this witness.
Hey, Ms. Dother, do you have any questions of this witness?
No, I do not.
Okay. Commissioners, do you have any questions? Okay. Brett, do you have any other witnesses or evidence you wish to present?
I have no further evidence at this time, but I would reserve opportunity for rebuttal if need be.
Okay. Ms. Duthard, would you like to make an opening statement to the commission and proceed with evidence?
Yes. In my defense, I was unaware that a report was needed.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but will the witness be placed under oath?
Thank you, Mr. Berry. That's a good point. Judge, would you swear the witness, please?
If you'd also raise your right hand, please, and let me know that you have.
I have.
Solemnly swear the testimony you are about to give in the matter now at hearing the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So, if you got it.
I do.
Thank you. She is sworn.
Thank you, Judge. Mr. Uthard, you may make an opening statement and then present any evidence if you have any.
Okay. I just wanted to say that I was unaware that a report was due on January 2020. The campaign had ended March 2019, and 2 months after, I had had no contact with the candidate. And so anything that was sent, I did not see until members that used to work on the team with us let me know that this was going to trial. And then I reached out. I don't remember who. I want to say I reached out to Jen to try to resolve it. At the same time, I had no contact with Troy to even get information to file the report. As far as what I could see, the account was at 0. But I was told that there was even some transactions done after the campaign had ended that I was not aware of. So it was hard for me to do a report even if I wanted to.
Okay. Mr. Berry, do you have any questions?
Briefly, Ms. Dothard, do you recall having an exchange of emails from Jennifer Snyder with our office, the Governmental Ethics Commission?
Yes.
Okay.
Mm,
If I was to
I reached
suggest to you, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt your answer. You can restate that?
No.
Okay.
As I reached out to her, yes, I do recall when all of this started. Yes.
Okay.
In March. Yes.
Would you recall a email from Ms. Snyder to you on May 11th of this year?
I want to say that was yes.
Okay. And if I was to suggest to you that the email indicated that the report was due on January 10th and that failure to file notice had been sent out, and it discussed the time frame for civil penalties to accrue, as well as the need to file the report, would you agree with that?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I have no further questions at this time.
Are there questions from the commission?
Were you, this is Jane Detterding, were you given the necessary information at the time the campaign was filed to know your responsibilities,
No.
even though that those are mailed to you from the this office?
I'm sorry. Well, if you're from the beginning of the campaign, that's what I thought I heard you say.
Yes, ma'am.
No. This is my first campaign, I honestly, I was learning really quickly. In 3 months, it was I can't even think of the word, but we had 3 months to do the campaign. So I would say that, no, I did not know all of the information or all of my responsibilities as the treasurer.
Established Judge Helmer, your address is shown as 1060 North 2nd Street, Apartment G in Leavenworth, Kansas. Has that been a consistent address from the beginning of the year till now?
Yes.
So the commission staff sent this information to you at the start of the campaign. Are you saying you did not receive that information?
At the beginning of the campaign, I can't say that I did. That was a year ago.
Can you say
I do not recall.
Are there further questions from the commission? Okay, do you have any further evidence, Ms. Dothard, that you'd like to offer to the commission?
No.
Okay. Brett, would you like to close?
I was thinking of putting Ms. Snyder on for a brief bit of rebuttal, but if the commission does not feel that they need that testimony, we can proceed to closing.
I
Hey,
have
Brett.
no idea.
I'm sorry to interrupt. This is Amy. Could I ask a question before we close?
Yes.
So just the question I have is, just to make sure we elaborate on something you said, was you have not been in contact with Troy since what time?
Since the end of the campaign,
Okay, so that would have been
March.
March of 2019?
Yes.
Okay, and you've tried to reach out to him and he has not responded or provided information to you that you needed to file?
No, he did not. Well, I couldn't get a hold of him.
Okay, and then did you have access to the accounts, or did he have access to the accounts?
I had access, yes, I had access to the bank account. The bank account says 0.
Okay,
I don't know. Like I said, in the transaction between Jen, I was told that there was something else done, but I didn't have, like, I guess another check was deposited, but I didn't have the other information to file the report, like what check it was, like a picture of the check, what I would normally need to file the report, I could not get.
okay, and it wasn't in the bank account? You couldn't see that transaction?
I could, what is it? I want to say it was, I haven't looked at it, forgive me.
Okay.
On the bank, it was there, but again, when I file the report, I have to have a picture of the check. And that's something that Troy, I guess, would have since he deposited in there.
Okay.
Are there further questions from the commission? Mr. Berry, if you have rebuttal, please proceed.
Okay. At this time, I'd like to recall Jennifer Snyder.
Here.
Mr. Snyder, you're still under oath.
Okay.
Ms. Snyder, did you hear my questions to the respondent regarding an email exchange between yourself and the respondent?
I did.
Okay. And do you recall the email that I referred to, which I believe was May 11th, 2020?
Yes. I have a copy of it here in front of me.
And did you in that email discuss the need for the filing of the report?
I did.
Okay.
And as Ms. Dothard mentioned, I did mention that there was a contribution that had not yet shown up on a report that needed to be also claimed, and therefore more information was needed from the campaign.
Okay. And in that email, did you also indicate information about civil penalties as well and when they may accrue?
Yes. Actually, by that time, the civil penalty was at its max.
Okay. That's all the question.
Yes, I did encourage that she could request a waiver of penalty and such. So.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Snyder. I have no further questions.
Are there, Ms. Dothard, do you have questions of this rebuttal witness?
No, I don't have questions. I know our conversation.
Okay. Are there questions from the commission of this rebuttal witness? Okay, thank you. Mr. Berry, would you like to close?
Yes.
Assuming you have no other evidence.
I have no further evidence at this time. And I would make a brief closing. I'd indicate to the commission that the violation before you today is one of a report that was not filed. It was due January 10th, 2020. Ms. Southard, through both her testimony and the records that the commission have, was the treasurer for that report, and therefore is subject to the Campaign Finance Act and has an obligation under the Campaign Finance Act pursuant to 254148 to file reports periodically when they are due. And in this particular case, the report has yet to be filed. So I think based upon the evidence before the commission, there is clear, the evidence by a preponderance of the evidence would establish that the report has not been filed. Therefore, I think the appropriate thing would be to find that Ms. Southard is in violation. And if the commission would like me to go ahead and make an announcement regarding our recommendation for disposition, at this time, I would refer to Mr. Skoglund, but if not, I will make that at the appropriate time.
Ms., are there questions from the commission? Ms. Dothard, would you like to make a closing statement?
Yes. I want to say that I do take responsibility for the report not being filed, even though I did not have the information needed. I am aware that it was not filed, and my apologies to the Ethics Committee. I did not want to do that. This is this is a lesson learned for me, and I will definitely. I should have. I really don't want. I don't want to take up your time. There's a lot more to this that I don't think is important in this matter when it comes to what happened during the campaign. It was very rough. I should have, through wise counsel, actually resigned from the beginning of the campaign, but I stuck in there trying to help a friend. And here I am in front of you. And here, yes. So that is all I did. Yes.
Do you intend to file this report?
I don't have all the information too. If I could just file it with what I have to resolve this issue, I will.
Would you be willing to meet with the staff of the commission afterwards to try to get it filed?
Absolutely, whatever I can do, yes.
Okay. Are there questions from the commission? Okay, we will go into deliberations. Does anyone wish to share their thoughts or make a motion?
I move we assess the minimum penalty on this matter, which I understand is $5,000.
That's the maximum.
What's the minimum?
The minimum would be $1.
Well, then let's go 2,500.
Okay.
We have to have a finding that she is in violation.
I can't hear you, Jerry.
He said that we really need to do this in two stages. Number one, we need to find whether or not she's in violation.
I would move that based upon the evidence that the counsel for the commission has, by preponderance of the evidence, proven the complaint, and that we enter a finding that Ms. Southard is in violation.
Is there a second to that motion?
Couldn't hear it.
Is there discussion on the motion?
What was the motion? I couldn't hear it.
The motion was to find that she was in violation of the statute as alleged in the complaint.
I will second that.
Is there discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. There had been a finding of violation as alleged in the complaint. Now we need to determine if and how much of a penalty to impose. Does anyone wish to make a motion with respect to that?
This is Ken. I'd like to make some comments before I guess what I'm looking at is the previous case that we had with Ramirez and his treasurer. And in that case, Ramirez has had experience in not filing reports before, and it had been an ongoing problem. And we found appropriately that he had violated the act, and we imposed a fine of $750. His treasurer, who did not indicate any problems to communicating with him whatsoever, and had the same access to information apparently that he had, then we found a violation, but in that case imposed no fine whatsoever. And so I'm looking at this case, and I think now we have a treasurer who apparently does not have access to the information to file the report, is willing to work with the commission staff to try to get the report filed. We have the actual candidate who we can't find apparently, who knows what, so I assume we will hold a hearing next week or next month in absentia. But I just think it's important for us to balance out the similarities in the previous case, which I think the commission took the appropriate actions, with the current case.
Can I agree with you?
Is that a motion, Ken?
Well, I guess my motion would be to assess a fine of $250, and that fine would be waived conditioned upon the complainant. I'm sorry, not the complainant. The respondent cooperating with the commission staff to the extent possible to get the records so that the report is filed within 30 days. I think one thing is, I think, if she's on the account, she can contact the bank and get the records.
Okay.
And that should be sufficient to file a report as we can now. And if something changes, the report can always be amended.
Okay. Is there a second to that motion?
I second.
Moved and seconded. Is there discussion?
I'd like to ask Mark a question. Mark, do you feel that she can obtain enough information from the bank to be able to file the report?
I think that there are two scenarios that we run into when treasurers have issues contacting their candidate. They either have enough information to supply a report that has as much information as they have available, or alternatively, they need to resign as treasurer. One of those two options needs to occur. A treasurer who is entirely cut off from information can simply resign, and that would resolve the problem for most treasurers who run into this problem, though obviously that's a course that should be taken much earlier than today at a hearing. I think that she certainly could supply a report with as much information as she has available to her, and if there are additional transactions that she is not aware of, then I'm sure we could address that with the candidate.
And Mark, just a quick question. How does someone resign? Is it a simple email?
Yes, we typically allow people to resign as treasurer simply by emailing us and letting us know. There is a new appointment of treasurer that must ultimately be filed, but a treasurer often can simply resign with just an email.
Okay, thanks.
Is there further discussion? Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. In summary, Ms. Duthard, we found that you are in violation, and we've imposed a $250 fine. But if you can work with the commission staff and get whatever report you can get on file within 30 days, that $250 fine will be waived. Is there a recommendation with respect to the prosecuting authorities? Are we going to recommend that no further action be taken?
I'd make that recommendation.
I'd second it.
Okay, without objection, that will be the recommendation.
Excuse me, Judge, would you repeat that, please?
Excuse me?
Under these circumstances, she complete the form as best she can within that time frame, but then also she go ahead and resign so that she can avoid any further potential complaints through this non-conforming, apparently, person who actually was the candidate. And she doesn't have any information about him, and we don't seem to be able to find him either, just to protect herself.
Ms. Duthard, do you have any questions of us before we adjourn the hearing?
Who would I email to resign, and what exactly, is there anything in particular I need to state in that email?
You first of all need to work
Oh, I
with
need
the
to do the
commission.
report. Okay.
You do the report, and then they can tell you how to resign.
Okay.
All right. There being nothing further, the hearing on this matter is now closed. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, John. The last item we have on the agenda for today is executive session. I have 2:19 right now. Kyle?
How long would you like to go?
Let's go until 3 to start and hope that we can get through everything in that time, but we'll update it.
Okay, then allow me. I move that the commission recess this open meeting until 3 p.m. for executive session to discuss matters limited to confidential complaints with staff present, to participate in the discussions pursuant to KSA 75-4319, subparagraph B1, B2, and KAR 19-6-2.
Does anybody second?
I will second, Ken.
Thank you, Ken. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay.
Aye.
The motion passes. I believe since we've already set the subcommittee, all that remains is penciling in our next month's meeting, which is—
If I may, Mr. Chair.
Sure.
I think we also need to announce public hearings regarding complaint 686 for Carol Brewer and complaint 687 for Arlen Briggs.
Okay. So for the next meeting, we have 2 additional public hearings that will take place. Is there anything else? So our next meeting will be September 23rd. And Mark, do we know if that will take place via Zoom, or will we just wait and see at this point?
If cases continue to rise, then if we meet in person, it's because of extraneous circumstances that require— there are certainly things that require us to meet in person as a commission occasionally. If that happens, I have already created a plan to provide us a large committee room in the Capitol that will allow us to socially distance and have the meeting in person.
Okay. And then for those subcommittee members, for the budget purposes, I guess we'll just look forward to further communication from you as we get into the month of September?
That is correct.
Okay. Does anybody else have anything that they wish to discuss today? Okay.
I just have a question for Sherry. Sherry, is there anyone in attendance physically at your location?
No, there was no one, Mr. Smith or any other people.
All right, thank you.
Okay,
that's all I had.
Thank you, Brett. Thank you, everyone, for your time today. We just need a motion to adjourn, and we can be done.
I'll move to adjourn. This is Ken.
Thank you, Ken. Have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Amy. All in favor of adjourning today's session, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. That concludes and adjourns today's Governmental Ethics Commission meeting. Stay well and stay safe, everyone, and we'll look forward to seeing you at the next one.
Thanks very much. You as well.